You are now listening to the Grio's Black Podcast Network, Black Culture Amplified.
Hello, I'm Maisha Kai, host of the Grio's Writing Black podcast. In West African tradition, to be a griot is to be a storyteller, one who carries and communicates the experiences and legacies of a people. As the Griot's lifestyle editor, I've always been fascinated by how we tell our stories. That's why we launched Writing Black, to explore the myriad ways Black writers craft stories and communicate our experiences. Thank you for joining us. Here's an excerpt from this week's guest.
Hey, Kaya, how would you describe your album?
Man, I feel like it's a breath of fresh air.
Then we got my man Kanye. Tracks, man, hold on.
Well, I first put the camera on this album becoming a producer back in 98.
Southtown made it down here, boy.
I knew he was destined for greatness.
This is Cootie right here. He shot all the footage.
The goal was to see how far his dreams would take him, but I had no idea what life would take us next.
Jay Ivy, thank you for joining us for this first episode of Writing Black.
Thank
How
you
you
for
been?
having me. Yeah, I'm blessed. It's so good to be here. Feeling fantastic, you know?
You know him as a poet. You know him, you might know him from Def Poetry Jam. You might know him from The College Dropout. You might know him from all over. You might know him as the Chicago chapter president of the Recording Academy. There's so many reasons to admire you, Jay. So thank you for joining us on Writing Black. I couldn't think of a better guest, and I was so tickled because you and I have a lot in common. So, obviously we're both from Chicago.
Yes.
Both Chicagoans still, right?
Yes.
And we're both Grammy nominated, although you've outpaced me. Man. You've got an NAACP award, you've got a Clio award. You are now part of the Emmy nominated crew of Genius. So Congratulations on that. That's a tremendous achievement. So I couldn't, we crafted this podcast really because I'm always fascinated as somebody who writes across genres myself. I'm always fascinated about the intersection of identity and craft, because we know that for us, the way that we write, the things that we write about, the ways that we use language are very specific. They're informed very differently than other people. So, we're going to start from the beginning. What was the genesis for you of wanting to work in the realm of words?
So the genesis for me was I was really good at writing notes to girls in high school. Real though. I was like, right. I couldn't talk to a girl, but I could write her a note.
Legit.
I could write her a note. No, but I didn't think that was a gift. I didn't look at it as a gift. And my junior year of high school, I went to Rich Central High School in the south suburbs of Chicago.
I went to HF, I know.
Okay, come on now. Come on. Yeah. I used to write notes to y'all all the time, Those HF girls, good Lord.
We were cute, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had my junior year, had an English teacher named Ms. Argue. And what I learned is you're not going to argue with somebody named Ms. Argue. So she had us write a poem for homework. And I wasn't into poetry. I'm a hip hop baby. I grew up listening to all the great MCs and I was always inspired by them, but I never looked at myself as being a storyteller in that sense. So I go home, just going to do my homework. I really want to get outside so I can go hoop. So I'm like, let me write this poem so I can go kick it with the guys, and wrote what I thought was a silly little poem called It Once Was a Cloud. It was about the cloud, the game we all play, the cloud changing forms. And so I wrote this poem. The next day I go to class expecting to turn it in, and Ms. Argue makes everybody read their poem in front of the class. So I was a very shy kid. I was a broken kid. I lacked confidence. So speaking in front of a room full of people was the last thing I wanted to do. But I read through the poem, rushed through it. Then after class, Ms. Argue pulls me to the side and she gives me an A on the poem. And I wasn't getting no A's or B's, some C's, So she gives me an A, and then she said, "You have a nice speaking voice. I have a show coming up, and I want you to do this show." So I'm like, "Nah, let's argue." Nah. So I didn't do the show. A few weeks go by. She approaches me again. She said, "You know what? Last time I asked you to do a show, you faked me out. I have another show coming up. This time I'm not asking you to do it. You have to do it." So she makes me do this show. And my first time on stage, as nervous and terrified and scared as I was, I received a standing ovation. And instantly my life changed on that stage. And I'm like, "Ms. Argy, when's the next show? When's the next show?" So I fell in love with the idea of feeling unseen, unheard, to all of a sudden, people see me and they hear me, and that energy, I just couldn't deny that feeling, that energy. So it really, although it started with the poetry, it was the stage that really, really, I guess it was that they were hand in hand. It was the poem, it was that assignment, but then it was also getting on the stage and seeing, like, instantly getting that reaction of the power of what it is.
That validation. Yeah. I know that feeling well. So, and there really isn't anything like that kind of that reciprocity, right? Like that you get in front of an audience. But it's so interesting that you saying that you didn't really consider yourself a poet, you were a hip hop baby, because we do know that, like, hip hop is poetry, right?
Yeah.
And you came to, I guess, massive national attention. I mean, you were known. Obviously, you and I are around the same age, from the same place, so you were known. But obviously, college dropout, changed things for everybody, right? Changed things for you, changed things for Kanye. And what was that like, feeling like that being able to merge those two worlds for yourself? I guess. I mean, I wouldn't guess if that was the first time, but on that scale of being able to really see where your poetry fit into this other genre that you love so much.
I mean, it was amazing. Like you said, like for the two to merge, for my love of poetry and my love of hip hop, for poetry being the foundation of hip hop. The last poets are the godfathers of hip hop, Gil Scott-Heron. Those are the forefathers of this art form that the world loves, that we call hip hop. Started with poets. I have a quote that says, "Poetry is the seed of every song written." So poetry is either spoken, poetry is sung, poetry is rap, but it's all poetry when you take the delivery away. And to have that moment, I was fresh off of doing Def Poetry. I just done the first season of Def Poetry, and so I was the first Black cat out of Chicago to be on the show. So I was already excited, and it was just this brand new season and moment in my life, and I was looking forward to seeing where could I take my art next. What can I do next? And after doing Def Poetry, I had this young gentleman, my brother by the name of Cootie, who just happened to be at Def Poetry when I filmed. And Cootie, after doing the show, after the taping, he was like, "Man, you should move to New York. You should move to New York." So I moved to New York, and I land right in the middle of the genius. I don't want to call it a storm, but it was just this tidal wave, this movement that was happening, and Cootie was documenting this journey. So when I landed in New York, I land right in the middle of that. I think when I got there, maybe 3 weeks after I got there, is when Kanye signed his deal. So this is, if you saw Genius, this is the time when he's running around, knocking on doors, going to offices, trying to get any and everybody to listen to him rap. He rapped for me a bunch of times too. But I love his rap. I thought he was cold. I'm like, this dude cold, And so Cootie,
everybody didn't catch on right away.
Nah, they did, which I didn't understand. I was like, y'all don't hear this dude? Like, this dude is incredible. Y'all not hearing his music. The first time I met him in Chicago, but in New York was the first time I got a chance to, like, really hang out with him. And it's actually in the film. In part one, you see me and Tari Ture come in, and that night, man, he rapped for it was like maybe 7 or 8 of us there. He rapped like it was 70, 80,000 people in his apartment, you know, and my first time like really hearing his music. And I mean, I heard the Go-Getters, you know, in Chicago because I'd done shows with them. But like really hearing a Kanye West record, he rapping, he did 2 Words for Us. He rapped All Falls Down. He rapped Hey Mama, Jesus Walks. I'm like, this dude is incredible. So a few months after me being in New York, this is after Kanye getting the accident and Coodie goes to LA and Coodie calling me every day like, man, Jay, you need to get to LA. We out here kicking it. And then he called me the next day, man, Jay, he's like, you need to get to LA. We was just at Jamie Foxx crib and him and Kanye did this song called Slow Jams and I got it all on tape, man, you need to get out here. So then the next day roll around and I'm still new to New York, so I'm still in let me go out whenever I can mode. But I didn't have $2 to get on the train to go out. It was a Saturday night and I was in between shows. But I was feeling good though. I was in a great place. But so I was like, you know what? I got some food in the crib. I'm gonna just chill out and I'm gonna write. And that's what I did. So I'm writing. It's a Saturday night. I'm writing, and then Coodie calls me like 11 o'clock that night. Like, man, Jay, you need to get to LA right now. He's like, Kanye got a song with him and Jay-Z on it, and he want to put a poet on it. And I told him he need to put Jay Ivy on it. I'm like, man, stop playing. You know, because Coodie a funny dude. He did comedy and all that. And I'm like, come on, man, stop. I'm like, that ain't funny, man. He's like, no, for real. He's like, you need to get out here tomorrow if you can. I was like, oh, you for real? So he plays a song for me over the phone. I really couldn't hear the words. So he telling me what Jay-Z saying in his verse. He telling me what Kanye saying in his verse. And then he was like, man, Jay, he was like, you need to get out of here tomorrow. I said, I'm going to find a way. So I hung the phone. My first thought was, you need to write something right now. So I turned to a blank page. I wrote the date down, wrote the title, Never Let Me Down. And I wrote the first thing came to my mind. We all here for a reason on a particular path. You don't need a curriculum to know that you're a part of the math. And then my mind went completely blank. I'm like, oh no, this ain't the time for writer's block, you know? So I started banging on the page. I was like, God, I need a piece right now. I was like, please give me one right now. When I put my hand back to the page, my hand started moving, writing. I wrote a full page. I stopped, I read over it. I read over like 4 or 5 times. I was like, man, it's kind of hot, you know? So I called Coodie back in 10 minutes, like, listen to this.
Get up, I get. We all here for a reason on a particular path. You don't need a curriculum to know that you're a part of the math. Cats think I'm delirious, but I'm so damn serious. That's why I expose my soul to the world, the globe. I'm trying to make it better for these little boys and girls.
So I spit the poem from over the phone. He like, oh man, that's crazy. So then he like, hold on, Jay. So he go in another room. Music's loud, people talking. So everything goes quiet. And he like, Jay, I'll put you on speakerphone. He's like, spit the poem again. So I did it like I'd done it a million times already. You know, if I'm on the highest cliff, on the highest riff, you slipped off the side, clutched onto your life from my grip, I will never, ever let you down. So I'm going. When I finished the room, he rapped it. Everybody, oh man. I'm in Brooklyn, broke by myself. Like, what's good? What's happening? So then I hear Kanye like, man, Jay, spit it again. Did it again. Spit it again. I did the joint for like a half hour, a piece a minute long. And then Coodie finally got back on the phone. He's like, Jay, guess what? I'm like, what? He's like, Kanye flying you out here tomorrow. I was like, I found my way. You know, so now here I am in this moment. And I go to LA, call my mama like, Ma, send me $100. So I don't go to LA broke, you know. And I get out there and I'm hearing the song, you know, when I finally get to the studio and I'm in the booth and I'm hearing the song, I'm hearing Jay-Z. I'm like, this is Jay-Z. This is one of the greatest of all time. Oh, now I'm hearing the choir and the hook. Oh, now I'm hearing Kanye West. I'm like, this is incredible. And then there's this space for me. There's a space for poetry. And it was just the most surreal feeling ever. The whole moment, it felt like I was in a movie. Like it literally felt
that whole story just gave me goosebumps. I'm just sitting there, and I've seen Genius. So and you know, that was that. I have to bring that up as well because you are one of the writers on is you and Cootie are the writers on Genius, as far as I understand it. And, that's what a full circle moment. Like, how amazing to have been there at the beginning of that arc and then be there to tell the story. There's a line in Genius. Cootie says, "Home is where I learned the power of capturing timeless moments."
Mm-hmm.
And, I looking at Genius, like that is such a love letter to Chicago as much as anything else, as much as a biography of Kanye. To me, I was like, oh, this is about home. Like this is, this is why I came back, having lived in New York, like, it felt like a very major, major love letter to this city that is steeped in so much history and music and poetry and Black art. And also, it's very complicated, as we know. It can get complicated here.
Yeah,
how would you say that Chicago has and continues to feed you creatively?
Oh, I mean, Chicago is the root of it all. It's my first love is Chicago. Chicago taught me how to walk, how to talk, how to move through life. When it comes to my creativity, it always pushed me to be great, like to be the best you possibly can. Because I always tell people, like, Chicago's the hardest place to perform. They don't just give you they don't just hand it to you. You got to earn it. Like, you really, really have to earn it. So if you want to earn it, you got to dig deep. And then after you dig deep, you got to dig deeper and find ways to move the crowd. Because, Chicago is a very, it's blue collar town. It's not an easy place. There's a lot of love, but that love is often interrupted by, just by the tragedies that exist there. So it just teaches you, it molds you to want to strike a chord in someone. Like, if you have an opportunity to speak in front of people, you have an opportunity to capture someone's attention, and possibly shift perspective or inspire or motivate or just put a smile on somebody's face. Let people know they're not alone. Like, yo, I'm going through this too, and here's my poetic take on it. Like, when you have that opportunity, it's a responsibility that I take on. It's a responsibility that I cherish, that I appreciate, and I will always champion those moments for Chicago, because of Chicago. It's just everything. My grandfather would always say, like, if you can make it in Chicago, you can make it anywhere. And I'm a strong believer in that. I've seen so many people from Chicago go other places and they shine. Like, they go and New York, LA, Atlanta, Miami, wherever they go, and they thrive and they shine because Chicago it just brings the best out of you, And I gotta shout out Cootie, because that's where we met in Chicago. He was doing comedy, and I would go to the comedy clubs to do poetry. Not only did Cootie call me about Never Let Me Down, but 20 years later, I mean, of course we still kick it and talk every day, but almost 20 years later, he called me. He was like, "Man, Jay," he's like, we finally about to do Genius. And he was like, "I want you to be the lead writer." I was like, wow. I'm like, "Man, thank you. Let's go. Thank you. Let's go."
Well, I can't wait to hear more. Stay tuned for more from the Writing Black podcast.
The Griot Star Stories with Teray, coming soon on the Griot's Black Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Writing Black podcast. Genius wasn't your first documentary, because you were also on Muhammad Ali, the People's Champ, correct?
Yeah.
Another Chicago-based hero. He was based here largely. But what was that like? Making that, was that a transition for you? Was that a challenge when you kind of started getting tapped to do stuff like that?
No, it wasn't. Like, I've always I feel that as creatives, as writers, as poets, I feel like our superpower is the ability to listen. So when I write, whether it's poetry or a script or I've written for commercials, of course I wrote the narration and performed the narration for Muhammad Ali, the People's Champ. We also did Martin, the Legacy of a King. I wrote and narrated a piece with ESPN. So whenever I'm tapped or tagged or asked to write something, or my own things, I'm listening. I'm listening, and I'm listening to my heart. I'm listening to the ancestors, my angels. I'm listening to what's happening in the world. I'm listening to thoughts and ideas that come to mind, and my job is just write it down, and to catch as much of it as possible. Now, stylistically, like even with Genius, I'm like, yo, y'all want this poetic or no? And it's like, nah, we need to be more straightforward. This need to be in Coodie's voice. So that and that was one of my main things. Like, this needs to sound, one, it has to be a conversation. I was like, Coodie, I was like, it has, like, we have to be authentic to your voice. So if it's some Chicago lingo in there, if it's if it's whatever it is that will come across that is you. Like, you just sitting down telling somebody, like you talking to one person and you just telling them this story. So we wanted to make sure that it was authentic to Coodie's voice, authentic to Chicago, authentic to the history, and making sure that truth was there, that love was there, that faith was there. So when to your question, like, it's not hard. It's not hard. It's just, for me, it's just a matter of listening, and that comes with collaboration too. So like when you're collaborating, okay, I'm listening to your ideas, your perspective. Coodie, like, okay, well, this was, and a lot of especially with Genius, a lot of it was a lot of conversations. I mean, we talked a lot. And mind you, we were working on this for almost 2 years. So the editors, they started in March of 2020, right when things shut down. So when the editors started loading in this 500 hours of footage that Coodie shot. Right. And so it was a year and a half that I was working on. Over the course of that time, there were a lot of conversations, a lot of reminiscing. I did have the privilege of being there for this movement because, in the 90s, I always tell people, like, in the late 90s, there was a Chicago Renaissance happening.
Yeah,
where, all these artists that were like, we were told, go to school, get a good job. And all of us was like, damn that, I got a dream.
Listen, every single one of us was like, and?
Yeah, so
I'll get that good job later. But yeah, I gotta chase this thing right now while this moment is hot so I can say that I did that, right?
Yeah,
I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that. Also, it's so funny because I think when people think about Chicago and they think about poetry, they automatically go to that era because of Love Jones, right?
Oh, yeah, Love Jones. Oh, Love Jones, classic.
Just opened it all up for us over here.
It really
what
did.
It means to be black and sexy in Chicago, and good with your words.
It really did. That movie was huge for the culture. It was huge for poetry. Like, I always tell people, like, there may not have been a Def Poetry without Love Jones. Like, Love Jones really helped knock the door down. And between Love Jones and Slam, shout out to Saul Williams, it really knocked the doors down to say, okay, there's this movement happening with poetry. Let's do this show, and we saw the success of that. But with Genius, I had the privilege of being around for that era of time. Then I had the privilege of being around for the making of The College Dropout. I'm in those sessions. I'm watching this moment being created right in front of me. I'm a part of it. Yeah. And then me and Coodie, again, it's my brother. Chike is my brother. Like, we just had this synergy. So again, there was a lot of conversations, reminiscing, figuring out, okay, where are we going? And my whole thing too is, like, when I write, I'm like, where are we going? Like, what's the destination? Like, I look at it like a road trip, or not even a road trip, just a trip. Like, okay, I'm going to this Chicago. I'm going to Miami. So once I decide that I'm going to Miami, how am I getting there? When am I going? Who am I going with? what am I taking? Then you start coloring in the lines and start painting and saying, okay, I have my destination. Now I can create or mold this journey of getting there. And then once I get there, now what happens? Now that I'm in Miami, what's the feeling? Then I can get in all of the detail of it all. But once I know where we're going, then it's easier to get there. So with Genius, it was like, okay, I was like, it's so important where we land. Like we have to land this thing. This is a huge story. And like you said,
and it's still going. I mean, it's an ongoing.
It's still going.
Right.
It's still going. It was changing while we were working on it. It was, we had probably 5 different endings because it was always something new. Oh, now you're running for president. Oh my God. We thought it was done. All right, here we go. Here we go. Every time we thought it was over, something else happened, and it was like, okay, we got to just stop it now. Like it got to the point like, okay, we can't add no more. This is the end. But then like, what's the messaging? And once we figure that out, and again, faith, and the fact that we all have a genius inside of us. Once we realize, like, okay, this is the point that we want to get across. Like it's not. We're not saying Kanye is a genius. Well, no, we are saying he's a genius, but Cootie's a genius, Chike's a genius, Jay Ivy's a genius, everybody's a genius, Maisha's a genius. Like we all have that genius inside of us, and it's just a matter when we decide to tap into it and go after it that we discover it.
You better give that master class. You better come on, Jay Ivy.
Oh, come on now. This will be me.
It's so wild. Like one of my favorite anecdotes about you is that you were the person who gave John Stevens the name John Legend. And I'm like, you should have kept that for yourself, because really this is that kind of legend talk here, my friend, that we are here for. And you just said something about what Love Jones had done for poetry and the culture. And I cannot also, I definitely can't end this conversation without talking about the fact that you've been continuing to drive that movement of making sure that poetry has a lane, spoken word has a lane, the work that you're doing with the Grammys. I may be wrong in this, but I heard that you were the person who made this first spoken word category happen. Am I wrong about this? Is that
No, you're not wrong about that. You're quite right.
Incorrect. I did not think I was.
You're quite right. I mean, I'm still blown away that it happened. Well, real quick, the John Legend story that happened the same night as Never Let Me Down. By the way, I just want to let you know that.
I love it.
The same night that I
saw him in that footage, and I did wonder that.
That was the night. The same night I recorded is the night that I gave John Stevens the name John.
It was
Legend.
A legendary night. Yes.
Yeah, it was a legendary night. It was. But with the category, so I've been working on this for the past 6 years, and this year I was nominated for a Grammy.
Congratulations!
And
yes,
thank you so much. I was nominated in the best spoken word category, and the spoken word category includes poetry, audiobooks, and storytelling. So I was nominated alongside LeVar Burton, Don Cheadle, Dave Chappelle, Amir Suleiman, Barack Obama, and myself. And that was an amazing accomplishment. Something I'm still tripping at it that happened. I still can't believe it happened. But I can believe it, but it's still like damn, it's still that. It's still like wow, like.
And I'm here to tell you firsthand, we are forever. You are Grammy nominated forever. Forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody said it the other day.
Exactly.
Yeah, they was like Grammy nominee. I was like, oh yeah, that did happen, huh? It's like, yeah, it happened. Like you that forever. I'm like, yeah. So I'm nominated in this category, but again, I had the only like full poetry album, but I'm up against these books and Dave Chappelle's him and Amir Suleiman. Amir is another incredible poet. Phenomenal poet. This is my brother. So he was a part of Dave's project. And but that was like a storytelling type of project with the poetry intertwined. So pretty much we in this category, and it's like, we comparing apples and oranges. So like this year, Don
Right.
Cheadle won. Last year, Rachel Maddox won. Year before that, Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, won. And that's been the
Right.
trend. Like for the past couple of decades, audiobooks have been dominating the spoken word category. So I've been at the Grammys, at the Recording Academy, like, listen, y'all, like, it's amazing y'all want to award these audiobooks, but that is not the art form of spoken word. We gotta change this. We gotta get this right, because the poets, we don't have those big machines. We don't have those big publishing companies and record labels behind us. We're independent artists
Exactly.
doing our thing, but we keep getting swallowed up or overlooked because you had big names coming in. So this year was the first year in the history of the Academy that you had two poets nominated at the same time. So it's very rare that a poet is nominated. And and Maya Angelou, in the history, Maya Angelou is the only poet to ever win in that category. So I went to them. So for the past 6 years, I've been campaigning with not only with the Recording Academy, but also with the poetry community, building relationships. Because now here I am on the board. Now I'm president. But then after becoming president, I became trustee. So I'm no longer president. It was a 2-year
Okay.
term.
Okay.
So now I'm a national trustee. So now when I did become president, I was the first poet in the history of the Recording Academy to hold a president's seat. There are 12 chapters, and I was the first poet to ever hold a president's seat. And then when I became trustee, I was the first poet in the history of the Academy to ever hold a trustee seat. So what that did was put a voice from our community in the room. So we in the room, we people come with different proposals and how we can better and change the music community. And we working on this and we working on that, we working on this. I'm like, that's great. Okay, I'm with that. Yeah, Hey y'all, but what about the spoken word category? We need to get this right, because these audiobooks, they dominating us. And then this year I wrote a proposal, wrote the definition for the category, submitted it, and we voted on it, and it actually passed. So now, and for the first time in the history of the Recording Academy, poets, we have our own category. It's called the Best Spoken Word Poetry Album
I think that's so
category.
dope. I really do.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's so
like
dope.
it's incredible. Like I'm still like it's such a game changer, and
Yeah.
it's like it really it pushes the culture forward, because I tell people all the time, it's not about validation, but what it does is because poets, the work that we do, we're going to do regardless. Like,
Right.
we're going to write, we're going to perform, we're going to heal, we're going to add perspective, we're going to change lives, save lives. We're going to do the work regardless. But then you have this incredible platform that will put more eyes and ears on the work that we do. So more healing would be made, more love would be spread, I feel, because of that. So I'm excited. So this year, 5 poets will be nominated. A poet will be bringing home a Grammy, and from here going forward. So yeah,
I mean,
I'm really proud of
I
that.
love that legacy that you're building there. I got to ask you, obviously you're prolific. You are constantly, writing and creating and advocating. Who do you listen to? Who do you read? What's your recommended reading list?
Oh, my recommended reading list. Like I kind of
Like if you had to give me like 3 to 5 folks that you just love.
Oh man, that's tough. Like I just read like a bunch of whatever. Like somebody may suggest something like Ta-Nehisi Coates. I absolutely was just enthralled by his the way he writes. It's just incredible. But then there's books like the Celestine Prophecy that I absolutely love, and that by James Redfield. And that book, it just really just changed my.
I mean,
my
it could be people you
perspective.
listen to too. This could be.
Yeah, I mean,
you
as
love
far as
hip-hop. It could be.
yeah, I mean, I love I'm a Common, my all-time favorite MC. Him and Slick Rick.
Our hometown.
Yeah. I may be a little biased. I don't know.
You're a little biased. I think you're a little biased.
Yeah, a little biased. I love Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
the poets like Sonny Patterson and Jessica Care Moore, Amir Suleiman, Black Ice. Like I'm a big fan of my fellow poets. There's a lot of folk that are doing amazing work. There was Ursula Rucker. I just sit back and I listen. I'm like, man, how did you write that? I'm always amazed. Like how did your mind even go there and put that puzzle together? Like it's incredible. So yeah, I'm a fan of those who inspire. I'm a big fan of those who shift and push the culture forward.
Wow, thank you for pushing the culture forward, and thank you for this conversation. Because I mean, A, I could talk to you all day. B, it just like warmed the whole thing. Like, you took me from goosebumps to just warm. Like, so thank you so much, Jay Ivey. This is what we're here for. This is what it's supposed to do. We appreciate you so much, and hopefully this won't be the last time we talk to you.
Oh yeah, we got to build. We have to. I got a new album that I would love to speak with you about. So my current album, the one that's nominated, it's called Catching Dreams, and so I'm working on the follow up, and I can't wait for you to hear it and talk about that.
All right. Well, again, Jay, I cannot thank you enough for coming and sharing. First of all, this is just so much wisdom that you just dropped on us, like craft and storytelling and this legend. Like, I mean, the story behind the story. I feel like I just taped a whole like behind the music episode. Thank you so much. I cannot think of a better way to kick off this podcast, and I'm so excited to see what you do next. Your album coming up and all the good things you're doing with the Recording Academy. So we hope to be hearing more from you. And thank you again for being our very first guest on Writing Black.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Keep shining bright. And like you said, we gonna keep writing black. We gonna keep writing black. Yeah.
That's right.
Chi-town.
Now, as much as I love interviewing folks, this is kind of my favorite part of the show because I get to share with you some of my favorite things. Listen, when it comes to poetry, I'm a big fan of a lot of people, Claudia Rankine, Alice Walker, any number of folks, Maya Angelou, like all the classics, Nikki Giovanni. But I have a special place in my heart for Hanif Abdurraqib, who I think is doing some of the most exciting, sensitive, intuitive work out there right now. And while he's published several books of poetry that I highly recommend, I actually fell in love with this book, which is kind of a cross between essay, poetry, etc. This is A Little Devil in America, Notes in Praise of Black Performance. As a Black performer myself, I guess this hits a sweet spot with me, but I highly recommend for a dose of history and just sheer brilliance. So get this, it's my favorite. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Writing Black. As always, you can find us on the Grio app or wherever you find your podcasts.
The Grio Black Podcast Network is here, and it's everything you've been waiting for. News, talk, entertainment, sports, and today's issues, all from the Black perspective. Ready for real talk and Black culture amplified? Be inspired. Listen to new and established voices now on the Grio Black Podcast Network. Listen today on the Grio mobile app and tune in everywhere great podcasts are heard.